21 minutes past the hour.
Once again, we are reminded of the undeniable effect of the movies on life in this country. Here we have Ronald Reagan, a former movie actor, attacked by a man who seems to have been obsessed with a teenage movie actress and may have had a movie plot running through his head.
And as usual, this all happened in Hollywood's finest tradition. A wide variety of Hollywood turned out for last night's Oscar ceremony, from a chapter 2 to a number 10. From Dracula to the Hulk. From a Superman to a flying nun. From the Nashville Sound to the Rose.
The ceremony's only tense moment came when Volker Schlondorf won a Best Oscar for foreign film, The Tin Drum. He began to say something about why his country, Germany, hadn't previously won an Oscar, and perhaps the audience, thinking they were about to be treated to another Vanessa Redgrave tirade, almost started booing.
Good morning and welcome to the Critics' Corner. The theme of the Academy Awards Tuesday night was Film is Forever, but it was a TV show that seemed forever. The Oscar telecast was dismal, disjointed, and dreary, a visual debacle of silly flying graphics and neo-deco-dopo sets. The program lumbered for 3 hours and 10 minutes.
In other news from our weekend file, showman Alan Carr pulled out all the stops to promote his upcoming music film, Can't Stop the Music. He sectioned off part of the very busy Sunset Boulevard for the unveiling of a massive billboard announcing the movie. Thousands of fans lined the street to get a glimpse of the film's stars, Valerie Perrine and Bruce Jenner, as well as several members of the disco group Village People. Also that evening, Carr held a private party at Schwab's drugstore, which closed for the first time in more than 40 years. The one down spot of the night, at Schwab, several of the invited guests saw fit to shoplift some of the exclusive drugstore's merchandise.
It is now 7:51. First there was Nightmare on Elm Street. Then there was Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Now, just when you thought it was safe to get back in the theater, a Nightmare on Elm Street 3 called Dream Warriors, the #1 movie in the country last week. In Syracuse, they called in the mounted police to control the crowds at theaters. Out in Los Angeles, they chanted, "Freddy, Freddy." They all went up in cheers, all because of the movie's razor-gloved madman named Freddy Krueger. Watch this if you dare. Do you have a hand there or something with you? What do you have with you?
Did you see it a little bit? I was trying to keep
this.
it out of frame. Yes. Just a man about town.
Yep, and our question of the day, should young kids be allowed to see movies like Austin Powers? Send your emails to question@msnbc.com or vote online at tv.msnbc.com. And some of the emails, Jeff?
Here's an email from Jonathan. Let your young kids watch, only if you want your children to act like the characters in the movies.
And from Kevin, as we all know, every individual matures at a different rate. To make any broad brush policy involving children would be unwise. Then how do you answer me? I haven't matured yet. I'm still a kid.
Curtis, you took the words right out of my mouth. And from Betsy, when is this all going to stop? Our children are growing up in a society of sex everywhere.
Well, Indiana Jones is back in the news. His fedora and leather jacket have been donated to the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C. Harrison Ford won't be needing these anymore because he's just finished the final film in the Indiana Jones trilogy, The Last Crusade, now playing at a theater near you.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy, for those very kind remarks. This is rather more about me than I had any notion. I'm very flattered, of course, to be here and honored to have these artifacts on display here. That's all I have to say.
Actress Jodie Foster, now a student at Yale University, says that she was very frightened. She cried when she heard that Hinckley was suspected of attempting to kill the president. Hinckley, it turns out, had been sending letters to Foster for some time. More from Denise Baker.
And the real Jodie Foster.
Foster told reporters she received several letters from Hinckley last fall and threw them away, what she usually does with unsolicited mail. But she was disturbed when more letters arrived in March.
I gave them to my college dean, who in turn gave them to the Yale police. These are now in the custody of the FBI. In none of these letters and notes I received was any mention, reference, or implication ever made as to violent acts against anyone, nor was the president ever mentioned.
This is a day of American tradition, and Leonard Maltin has a tradition of his own.
it used to be that calling a film a turkey was an insult. Nowadays, there's actually an audience for some of the worst movies ever made. Well, whether you want to watch them or avoid them, I thought I'd give you some pointers on how to spot those incredible movie turkeys.
Rambo 3 and all the movie excitement have moved to Thailand, but Sylvester Stallone left behind the exercise equipment that he'd brought with him to stay in shape. He donated it all to the U.S. Marines at the American Embassy in Tel Aviv.
Pee Wee Herman has come to Cambridge to pick up the Harvard Lampoon's prestigious Elmer Award for Lifetime Achievement in Comedy.
I know you are, but what am I?
Now that Herman has received the award named for longtime Lampoon janitor Elmer Green, the press wanted to know if Pee Wee was ready to do Shakespeare.
Well, I don't think Shakespeare is exactly what... Maybe Chekhov or, you know, something work up to it a little bit, you know. Maybe do like Richard Chamberlain and go over and study in England for a little while, you know.
So you can come back and go, oh...
You know, my plan right now is to just in a couple of years, you know, I mean, Lifetime Achievement Award, I might as well retire now, you know, so...
Ooh, I spit on myself.
Sorry, say it, not spray it. Anyway,
what was the question?
Our last story tonight is about movies. Next to summer, Christmas is the biggest time of the year for new films. 16 have opened in the last 2 weeks. Some of them may become blockbusters and some not. But there's one film that qualifies in advance as a certified hit. It's caught everyone by surprise, and that's exactly what the director had in mind. One of the most popular films released in the last few months was made 30 years ago. It is by Alfred Hitchcock. Rear Window is filling theaters across the country. It is one of the 5 films Hitchcock took out of circulation a few years after they were made, gambling that they would become more valuable. Rear Window has made $4 million in its first 2 months in the theaters. It's doing better than some first-run films.
Yeah, there is nothing like Hitchcock. They're well done and they're classy.
I find it actually more sexual because they reveal less and leave more to the prurient imagination of the viewer. Clean fun.
Suspense, his whole idea behind suspense. He wasn't into showing blood and, you know, gory. He just knew how to get, without showing anything.
Because the plotting is good, and because the acting is good, and because the direction is good.